With the Warriors down 0-1 the series, Golden State responded in the must-win game with a flaming third quarter that saw them blow the game out. The first half was a controversial one with high physicality, but I want to focus on how the Dubs abused the defense by the Celtics bigs on the perimeter. Let's get to it. With only a 2-point lead going into the third, Golden State was ready for their famous run. On the weak side, you can see Al Horford lose sight of Klay Thompson as he cuts baseline, and this half second is all he needs for Wiggins to set a pin down with Smart watching the ball. This switch is too late as Draymond feeds a pinpoint pass and Klay finally gets a three-pointer fall as he's been struggling. Boston immediately calls timeout to try to slow the momentum. Steve Kerr finally allowed Steph to dribble more on the ball and take advantage of size mismatches instead of constantly using him off ball. Here he curls off a Looney screen, has a bigger but slower Al Horford, and pulls back for the ISO. You can see Jaylen Brown knows this mismatch and shades off his own man Wiggins, but Steph gets into dance mode for the step back three over two long contests. After the Celtics hit two big threes, one by Grant Williams and one by Tatum off a switch, the Warriors smartly called timeouts as this became once again a two-possession game. Like I just mentioned, Golden State wanted to avoid switches onto the trio of Smart, Tatum, and Brown, and finally forced to engage the Celtics bigs in pick-and-roll actions. Horford was the main target here, and here he purposely guarding a non-shooter in GP2, but the easy reaction to this is to bring him in on-ball plays. Boston wanted to avoid this switch as much as possible, trusting Smart to fight over screens, but Horford is too low in drop coverage with his hands down, and Steph dribbles and attracts a rotation by Grant Williams. On the strong side is now a 2-on-1, and Wiggins makes a nice extra pass as Tatum has to rotate up. Porter Jr. knocks his one down for a big three. Here's the infamous Draymond Green play with three so-called screens, but yeah, a couple of these were definitely pretty sus. First screen by Dre on Derek White forces the switch to Grant Williams, and a second one by GB2 brings Horford up again, who is in another drop coverage, and this was a theme this quarter. This time Curry keeps the ball and pulls up from three with a light contest from behind and splashes this one. For the heat check, the Celtics was given poor minutes by Daniel Tice, who was exploited on defense this quarter. On a semi-fast break, Porter Jr. sprints from the strong side to set a hard pick on Derek White, his man in Tyson stupidly low in another drop coverage, trying to prevent a drive-by. This is a Steph Curry heat check we're talking about, and he launches it from 28 and it's a barrage. Jordan Poole finally came alive in the third quarter, and here initially you can see Looney come up, and the Celtics pre-switched this on the baseline, allowing a perimeter guard in White instead of Williams come up and defend the pick and roll. Boston gets a nice switch here, and on the roll you can see Daniel Tice point to Pritchard and pre-switch this again, allowing him to go back out to the perimeter and pick up Porter Jr. so he himself can switch onto a center in Looney. JP gets dribble penetration past White, forcing Tice to rotate and gets a nice dump-off pass to Looney for a dunk. One last time for Tice. Notice how the Warriors are at half court and Porter Jr. already comes up for the pick and JP gets a switch on the Tice. A slower big man is now so high up on the perimeter, and Poole gets into dance mode himself and hits a pull-up three as well. This is just tough and there's nothing he can do up on an island by himself. 20-point lead. I want to just add this half-court heave at the buzzer just for fun. This was a great response from Game 1 as Boston's going back home with an ideal 1-1 split. The good news is Golden State was able to replicate the third quarter barrage from Game 1 and were able to limit the Celtics role players, namely Smart, Horford, and White, from knocking down any noticeable threes last night. Jordan Poole also able to come alive, and both he and Curry were able to capitalize on the Celtics bigs, and I hope that remains a theme. The bad news is Draymond got another technical foul, and Klay Thompson has yet to show up in these last two home games, still struggling to find a shot. I predict the teams will split the Boston games as well, as they have a poor home record and the Warriors are historically good on the road. This will be a long series as most expected. If you like this breakdown, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys Wednesday night.